Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today's a sad one. I wanted to talk about the tragic story that came out over the last couple of days about Olympic marathon runner Rebecca Cheptegei. So Rebecca just made her Olympic debut at the Paris Olympics. She's originally from Uganda and she moved to Kenya to be near the many different training centres they have there. She had bought some land, built a house, and she was finally realising her dream of becoming an Olympic athlete. She finished 44th at this recent Olympics, but just after a month of achieving her goals of making it to the Olympics, her life was brutally stolen in a most heinous case of domestic violence. And sadly, Rebecca's story is all too familiar, as there have been a number of Olympic elite athletes in Kenya who have lost their lives as a result of domestic violence. So the incident is believed to have taken place on Sunday, and the suspect has been named as Dixon Nadaima. It's believed they were having an argument, they were heard fighting, and the boyfriend, Nadaima, he went and got some gasoline. He decided that he was going to go off and get some gasoline, and I don't need to tell you the rest. Rebecca suffered burns over 75% of her body, and she was in intensive care. The medical professionals did all they could, but sadly they reported that the burns contributed to organ failure and she passed away on Thursday. And a police commander said that the ex-boyfriend, Nadaima, is in hospital at the moment in intensive care with burns over 30% of his body. They said he's in a stable condition. So I hope once he's out of that hospital that justice is served immediately, because Rebecca's parents are very concerned that this person may be, out on the streets before we know it and able to flee.
A father rendered speechless, and a mother overwhelmed by tears. To the public, she was a rising sports star. To her family, the daughter they loved and lost to violence. The police said her partner doused her in petrol and set her alight.
The criminal who harmed my daughter is a murderer, and I've yet to see what the security officials are doing. He's still free and might even flee, while I've lost a child whom I depended on.
Rebecca had just made her Olympic debut in the Paris Games, and in a statement from the International Olympic Committee, President Thomas Bach says, "We're shocked and deeply saddened to learn about Rebecca Cheptegei's death following the horrible attack against her. Rebecca's participation in the Paris 2024 Women's Marathon was a source of inspiration, pride, and joy. Our hearts and thoughts go out to her family, in particular her children, her friends, and the Olympic community in Uganda." The president of Uganda's Olympic Committee, where Rebecca is from, called her killing senseless and cowardly.
She was definitely an icon, someone who most people are looking up to, and would ask, most of the young girls and boys would aspire to become like her. There is no room for violence against women.
Rebecca died in this hospital from her injuries and burns, survived by her parents and 2 daughters. The news has sent shockwaves through Kenya, where she lived and died.
Rebecca's situation is a very horrifying and dark tale of how women continue to suffer domestic violence under the hands of men. And my hope and prayer is that she will find justice.
A story of inspiration with a tragic end.
So Rebecca leaves behind 2 daughters, and her parents are loving parents. So this is a great article summarising the incidents that have happened in relation to female runners from Kenya and, the deaths that have occurred as a result of domestic violence. So it starts by talking about the brother of Agnes Therop, Martin. It speaks about him being at the World Athletics Championships and experiencing a very bittersweet moment where another female runner won the 1500 meters gold medal. And he said it was like watching his sister win that event, because sadly his sister is deceased. He said, "I wish Agnes was still here. She'll be in Budapest too, competing." Instead, on October the 13th, 2021, Martin Thirop made a gruesome discovery inside his sister's 3-bedroom bungalow in Kenya's capital of distance running. Agnes had just returned from a race in Switzerland, but Martin says he couldn't reach her for days. After alerting the police, he tells CNN that he went to her house and peeked through a window to see her body slumped in a pool of blood near her bedroom door. She had stab wounds in her neck and was wearing her Adidas sports bra and shorts. Martin believes she was probably headed out for a run when she was attacked. In the world of elite running, Agnes had been a rising star. She broke the women's 10 kilometers record in Germany in September 2021, about a month after placing fourth in the 5,000 meters at the Tokyo Olympics. She lived and trained in Etten, where, as Martin recalls, fans would wave excitedly when she drove by in her white Toyota pickup, blaring gospel music. Shocked neighbours gathered outside her home and wept as the 25-year-old champion was led away on a gurney. Then 6 months later, nearly 2 kilometres away from her house, tragedy struck again. Another runner, Damaris Mutia, was found strangled in a home with a pillow over her face. Mutia had just placed third at the half marathon in Angola earlier that month. She was a bronze medalist at the 2010 Singapore Youth Olympics. Investigators declared Thirup's husband a suspect, and in Mutia's killing, the main suspect was her boyfriend. And now the brutal killing of another elite athlete. A very, very disturbing pattern has been formed, in Kenya in particular. People are saying that Kenya has a femicide problem, and other parts of Africa have a femicide problem.
And doctors say they did everything that they could for her. Unfortunately, she had a high degree of severe burns, and that led to multi-organ failure and eventually to her death early this morning at the hospital in Kenya. And her family blaming the government for this. Her mom and dad said they had previously reported it to authorities. They went to the police, to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, and said this man is problematic. We think she went to Uganda, he followed her there. They reported it, and they say if authorities had taken any action, if they had taken this seriously, it would have saved Rebecca Cheptegei's life. Unfortunately, they didn't, and this is her mother today.
She was a good child, very polite, and she didn't have a lot of issues. I just don't know.
The family is distraught. They say that they don't feel action has been taken against this man who did this to her. She was admitted with 75% of burns on her body. It was very hard for her to survive that. They want action taken against him. They fear that he may flee the country and essentially escape justice, Amanda.
And, I mean, really sadly, Larry, this is not the first time we're talking about this kind of incident, is it? It's not an isolated case. Female athletes, in particular, as victims of domestic violence in Kenya.
Sadly, no. In 2021, Agnes Tirop, another Olympic athlete, was found stabbed in her own house. And the suspect in that case was her own husband. 6 months later, another Kenyan athlete, Damaris Mutua, was found with a pillow. She had been suffocated and strangled in her own house. The suspect in that case, her boyfriend. The issues of femicide are alive and real in the athletics industry in Kenya. And now Amnesty International Kenya calling for the government of Kenya to criminalize femicide as a crime on its own. There's the law that needs to be done to make that happen, but also authorities need to take serious action against intimate partner violence, which happens in lots of other relationships. But these three cases happening so soon next to each other really bring the issue of femicide for female athletes in Kenya to the fore, and waiting for any kind of action from legislators, from authorities in Kenya to make sure that athletes who bring so much glory to their country don't suffer this kind of violence. Across Kenya and Uganda today, so much pain and loss because she was an Olympic athlete. She was probably going to go on to do some great things in her career, and sadly, her life cut short, Amanda.
So Agnes Thirup's husband, Ibrahim Rocic, he was arrested and charged with murder, but the case is still ongoing, according to reports. And I can understand why Rebecca's parents are concerned that this suspect is going to evade, justice. But I really hope that doesn't happen. And I hope we talking about it, the world is talking about this case, because this was an Olympic runner. The world is taking notice of this disturbing pattern that's going on in Kenya. So I really hope that gets authorities to ensure that this is investigated thoroughly and that this person is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And that if they need to create a new law specific to femicide, that they do that, as the reporter said there. So according to a 2022 survey, the Kenya Demographic Health Survey, 4 in 10 women, or an estimated 41% of dating or married Kenyan women, have experienced physical or sexual violence perpetrated by a current or most recent partner. There was also a male runner, a steeplechase athlete, who was murdered in Kenya as well. Benjamin Kiplagat from Uganda. He was fatally stabbed, and this happened on New Year's Eve last year. 2 men were arrested in January this year. The motive of the killing was reported to be robbery. So sadly, there's an issue with violence in general that has occurred when it comes to elite runners, and in particular, elite female runners. So here in the US, it's reported that 3 women die daily as a result of DV. I thought that was a weekly number, but apparently it's daily. So according to the Journal of the American Medical Women's Association, the US ranks 34th for international female homicides. Now, what I would say is justice is more likely to be served here because the sentence for murder obviously is very high, life imprisonment. So in that regard, if somebody is convicted, they're going to get a tough penalty. But in recent years, we have seen judges lose their minds and release violent criminals back onto the streets, reducing their bail, granting them bail in the first place, and allowing them back onto the streets. And the family of Rebecca, they're saying that her death was preventable because this person was reported to authorities. They were warned about this person exhibiting signs of being a dangerous criminal, and nothing was done. Of all of the femicide cases to occur in high-income countries, 70% occur in the US. 70%. So there's certainly an issue here in the US too. And that brings me to my last story, another tragic story of a 23-year-old athlete, a 23-year-old gymnast, a college gymnast, who lost her life senselessly as a result of a shooting. The suspect is another college student, a male suspect, and it's believed that they knew each other.
It was through tears that Welsh's sister described her sister as a determined, smart woman who was full of life.
Mr. Richards, is that you by video?
Yes.
Chad Richards made his first court appearance in Walworth County after being accused of shooting and killing Kara Welsh.
My worst fear has always been losing my best friend. Now that it has happened, I will not stop fighting for her and telling her story to anyone and everyone that will listen.
Kara's sister, Kaylee Welsh, spoke for her family in court, saying her sister was the light of their lives.
There was nothing that Kara couldn't do. She was a friend to everyone and would give you the shirt off her back to anyone that asked.
Kaylee did not address Richards directly, but did say her family will fight for justice.
There's nothing that I wouldn't do for her, so I will be here to make sure that Kara is being fought for just as hard as you would have fought for me.
Richards is due back in court on Friday, and that's when the district attorney's office here in Walworth County says they'll file the charges by. Live in Walworth County, Marcus Arsville, WMTV 15.
And Kara Welsh's coach, Jen Regan, shared a statement saying it's impossible to put into words the impact Welsh had on the Warhawk community, and that her legacy will live on through Warhawk gymnastics forever. During her competitive gymnastic career, Welsh was a 2023 national champion in the vault, winning the event with a score of 9.825. She was also a 2-time WIAC champion in the vault, tying the program record in 2024 with a score of 9.875. Friends of the Welsh family have organised a GoFundMe page to help pay for funeral expenses. Really tragic story, a young life taken who had a very promising future. taken senselessly, and we don't know why. We don't know why. We don't know what the motive was. More details are yet to be released concerning this case. At least the suspect has been arrested. He's been detained. I hope us talking about these cases over in Kenya will really get them to ensure that justice is done in all of these cases. And my sincere condolences to all the families affected by these tragic stories, all of the fans, all of the people who admired these women, these athletes. You know, my heart really goes out to you. So let's hope that this pattern does not continue when it comes to female athletes being targeted and losing their lives violently. Let's hope that this does not continue, that shining a light on this issue will help in some way put a stop to it. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.